Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 760, Most She Touched Me by Her Muteness. Now, this poem was first published in the Atlantic Monthly in March of 1929. In many ways, we're back to a poem we've already studied together. Our assumptions that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. Hopefully you worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 759 poems. We just finished with 759. He fought like those with naught to lose. You'll remember our study of 254, one of Emily's most famous poems. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. The sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Now it will be this crumb that we'll be focusing on for this poem. Now, in this poem, Emily gives a crumb to a little bird. Now, the scholar Jane Donahue Eberwein has commented that the poets on Emily's tendency to express, quote, her sympathy for beings below her in the natural order. And here Emily will give a crumb to a starving bird, the winged beggar of line 17. The scholar Priest goes on to say, she cannot withstand the bird's mute appeal, even if the crumb were her whole possession. Emily then supposes the bird has taken the crumb on high without thanking her, when suddenly the sky is filled with the bird's song of praise to her benefactor. Now, Emily showing the compassionate side of herself in this poem. But I'm going to ask you if this poem can maybe be read about Emily herself, who has identified herself as a bird in a number of poems. Is it possible she's talking about poetic inspiration here being given to her, namely the crumb? Is this as well a poem about gratitude? I think it might be. Let's enjoy it. Most she touched me by her muteness. Most she won me by the way she presented her small figure, plea itself for charity. Were a crumb my whole possession? Were there famine in the land? Were it my resource from starving? Could I such a plea withstand? Not upon her knee to thank me sank this beggar from the sky, but the crumb partook, departed, and returned on high. I supposed when sudden such a praise began, 'twas as space set singing to herself and men, 'twas the winged beggar afterward I learned to her benefactor making gratitude. Now, the poem, of course, has a bit of echoes from Keats's Ode to a Nightingale. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. Notice, though, that she begins with the word most. Most. What is it that led her to be interested in this bird? We think, of course, of Hardy's darkling thrush. As well, we've given lectures at learnstrong.net. That is to say, a gaunt, Hardy will call it here. Notice, the first thing was the bird didn't sing. Her muteness. Most she won me, notice we go from touching me to won me, by the way she presented her small figure. I told you guys about small being used in 77 of her poems. Plea itself for charity. Notice we're going to go from charity to gratitude by the end of the poem. In other words, this bird needed something. Were a crumb my whole possession. Again, we're back to 54. Never ask a crumb of me. Were a crumb my whole possession. Notice these are questions without a question mark. Were there famine in the land? Were it my resource from starving? Could I such a plea withstand? It's interesting that Emily doesn't put the question mark there. It's almost as if she's saying, I had no choice. I had to do this. I had to give this crumb to the bird. And then, after the crumb is given, then we have the second part of the poem. Not upon her knee to thank me sank this beggar from the sky. Notice it's a winged beggar in a second. Beggar from the sky. But the crumb partook, departed, and returned on high. Notice on and high both capitalized. In other words, once I fed this little bird this crumb, the bird took off, didn't even thank me. Now obviously there's some irony here at play. And some have pointed out that when Emily starts playing games like this, we should probably try and follow along at another level and ask, is this a poem about Emily feeding a bird? Or is this a poem about Emily being fed? Emily being given a crumb. Is it a poem about inspiration, and especially poetic inspiration? And the she of the poem and the me of the poem then can be reversed. Certainly it can be read that way. Notice it's then I supposed. You'll remember that formation from 426, from 588, from 515. We'll see it again in 1007. We're going to see it again in 1381. When we get there, this will be a poem that we will come back to with the I supposed formation of 1381. I suppose the time will come, aided in the coming, when the bird will crown the tree and the bee be booming. I suppose the time will come, hinder it a little, when the corn in silk will dress and in chinks the apple. I believe the day will be when the jay will giggle at his new white house, the earth that too halt a little. This idea of I suppose, in other words, I'm musing. One more reason we called our series Chats with Emily is this informal kind of, I think, I suppose, like that. When sudden, such a praise began, and again, this sounds very much like Keats' Ode to a Nightingale, especially at the end. 'Twas as space sat singing to herself and men. In other words, you hear the sing. She said, I hear the singing. 'Twas the winged beggar. Afterward, I learned to her benefactor making gratitude. In other words, no, she didn't thank me. She just thanked me from the sky. Now, again, to find a message here, I think it depends on how you read this poem. I think one argument of this poem is that it is right to help the helpless. And it's right to show gratitude to the benefactors who have helped you, right? As the bird, she believes, is doing at the end of the poem. At 2b, well, it's obviously another riddle poem. I mean, we're talking about a bird, right? And we're talking about, in Winged Beggar, we're talking obviously about a bird that needs to be fed with a crumb. But it's also possible we're talking about Emily recognizing she was given a small amount of inspiration, she'll argue, a crumb. And for that, she will thank her benefactor by not falling to her knees, but rather singing in the skies, depending on how you read it, right? At 3a, well, we mentioned Keats's Nightingale. Think about Wordsworth's lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey. What is it that he says a great life is? Little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love. Emily obviously displaying one in this poem. We've given full lectures on Tintern Abbey at learnstrong.net. Finally, at 3b, who is a benefactor in your life? Someone in your life who gave you a crumb. And did you say thank you for that? And to whom have you given a crumb? Even though you didn't care that they ever said thank you. Thank you.